Somewhere deep inside you there is a strength, a quiet, steady force that allows you to act with confidence, think with clarity, and move through life with a sense of inner certainty. But almost always, that strength gets buried under doubt, under hesitation, under the weight of everything you were told you couldn't do. You were not born insecure. Your self-doubt was learned. It came from the harsh words you heard growing up, from criticism, from failure, from unfair comparisons that accumulated slowly over years. And because it was learned, it can be unlearned. Because Stoicism teaches us this: any mind can be trained. Any mind can be taught to believe in itself again. Think about what your life would look like if you could act with total confidence, without fear of making a mistake, without needing approval from anyone, without sabotaging yourself before you even begin. What would you dare to decide? What would you finally allow yourself to pursue? Self-doubt does not disappear by waiting it out. It weakens when you begin to act. And today, I want to share with you 10 simple but deeply powerful Stoic practices that will help you dismantle self-doubt, restore clarity, and reconnect with the strength that was always yours. It doesn't matter how long you've felt lost. You have the capacity to take back control of your own mind. And the first step begins right now. Before we go further, I want you to write something in the comments. Not after the video, but right now, as a declaration. Today, I choose to trust myself. Even if fear is screaming, even if doubt is loud. That decision becomes the beginning of a new path. One where your actions are no longer guided by uncertainty, but by confidence, clarity, and the deep knowledge of your own capability. Now let's begin. 1. Stop trying to be perfect. How many times have you not started something because you didn't feel ready? How many times have you been completely paralyzed by the fear of doing it wrong, of making a mistake, of being judged, of falling short? You are not alone. Most people confuse perfectionism with high standards. But perfectionism is not a standard. It is a trap. It disguises itself as ambition. But underneath, it is fear wearing a mask. Epictetus did not care about flawlessness. He asked only, "Did you move forward?" Because it is progress that carries us forward, not the impossible pursuit of perfection. Perfectionism is not discipline. Perfectionism is the fear of being seen as imperfect, dressed up in the language of excellence. You want to do things so well that you end up doing nothing at all. You wait for the perfect moment, and while you wait, life moves on without you. The more you try to appear flawless, the further you move from who you actually are, because no one is flawless. As the Stoics understood it, only something unchanging and eternal could be called truly perfect. You are human. You learn, you stumble, you correct course, you grow. Perfection demands appearances. Progress demands courage. Consider how much energy perfectionism steals from you. You start something straightforward, and it takes twice as long as it should. You postpone what matters because it isn't quite right yet. You never show your results because they could be better. And in the end, the world never gets to see what you're truly capable of. Not because you couldn't do it, but because you never let yourself try. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not wait for Plato's ideal republic. Be content with even the smallest progress, and consider nothing too minor. What transforms you is not perfection. It is the act of doing something. It is the finished thing. It is the work that took courage, even when you were full of doubt. And here is something worth noticing. When you demand perfection of yourself, you begin to demand it of others too. Disappointment creeps in. Comparison follows. But life is not a performance stage. It is a process. Stop, breathe, and ask yourself honestly, am I pursuing genuine growth, or am I simply trying to appear perfect? Because if it is only about appearances, you will remain exactly where you are. But if it is about real progress, even messy, imperfect progress, you will move forward. And that is already a victory. Today's practice is simple but powerful. Release the impossible standard. Do what you can and improve from what is done. That is the path of true growth. That is where genuine confidence is built. From action, not from illusion. If this idea landed with you, write in the comments, "Today, I choose progress over perfection." Because every time you act, even with fear in your chest, you send your own mind a signal. I can be counted on. And that kind of confidence is worth more than any version of perfect. 2. Remember the urgency of life and start truly living. This sounds heavy at first, but it is one of the most liberating ideas in all of Stoicism. Memento Mori, live fully now. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This is not a threat. It is a call to wakefulness. It is the reminder that time does not wait, and that the self-doubt paralyzing you today could dissolve completely once you remember how brief life actually is. Most of our anxieties are born from illusions, from fear of what others will say, from shame, from a constant suspicion that we are somehow not enough. But when you remember how short life truly is, those illusions begin to lose their grip. You start to see clearly. None of this matters as much as you believed. You are not here to collect fears. You are here to live with courage. Epictetus said, "Think of what truly matters, not to frighten yourself, but to remind yourself of what deserves your attention." The awareness of life's brevity walks beside you not as a shadow, but as a compass. Because in 100 years, no one will remember that you stumbled through a presentation, or that you hesitated at the wrong moment. But you, even if only near the end, will realize how many moments you missed because you were too afraid of being imperfect. How many dreams you delayed. How many times you quietly let go of something you wanted because you were afraid to try. You were born with a limited amount of time. And every time you choose fear, you are choosing to survive instead of live. This is not about dwelling on endings. It is about urgency. It is about waking up before it is too late. Try this simple Stoic exercise. Place your fears next to time. Ask yourself, will this matter in 5 years? In most cases, the answer is no. And that is freedom. Most of your fears are just smoke. The real fire of life demands action, now even with the fear still present. The practice. Every single day, do at least one thing that aligns with who you truly are. It can be something simple. Say thank you to someone. Turn away from a habit that no longer serves you. Take one step toward a project that has been waiting. But do it. because real life happens when you move, not when you wait. In the spirit of Seneca, we are not promised tomorrow. What we have is now. Start living it. Write in the comments, "Today, I live with courage." But more important than writing it is living it, as if every hour carries weight. Because it does. When you begin to value your time, doubt begins to shrink, and your life begins to take on the meaning it always deserved. 3. Accept change before it breaks you. Change does not ask permission. It arrives without warning, overturns everything, strips away certainty, dismantles the familiar, and sometimes breaks your heart in ways you were not prepared for. But here is the truth. What hurts is not the change itself. What hurts is our unwillingness to accept it. Seneca wrote, "While I speak of change, I have already changed." Nothing we see remains the same. He added the image of the river. You cannot step into the same river twice, because the river is already different, and so are you. And yet, even knowing this, we cling. We hold on to jobs that no longer inspire us, to relationships that have lost their connection, to old images of who we were, as if the past could somehow protect us from the present. But it cannot. Life does not stop moving. And the more you resist, the harder it pulls. Self-doubt does not come from newness. It comes from the refusal to release the old. It feeds on the fear of losing control, even though, in truth, we never had full control to begin with. The Stoics did not fear change. They studied it, accepted it, and understood it. Everything passes. The body, status, relationships, memory. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "All things pass, the one who remembers, and the things that are remembered." And yet we desperately want stability, as if stability was safety. But often it is that very craving for stability that keeps us trapped, paralyzed, exhausted, silently in pain. When someone leaves, when something ends, when life changes direction, you have two paths. You can resist and suffer, or you can accept and grow. The Stoics described our relationship with change through a vivid image. We are like a dog tied to a moving cart. The cart is life, and it will keep moving, with us or without us. The dog has two choices: walk alongside it or resist and be dragged. The choice is there, but the movement is not. The more we fight what we cannot control, the more it costs us. But when we accept, when we move with the current of the inevitable, we remain whole. Acceptance is not surrender. It is the understanding that every change carries an invitation to evolve, to release what no longer belongs to you, to adapt, and to begin again with greater awareness. You can look at a loss and see only emptiness, or you can look again, more calmly, and notice the space that has opened up, and the new life that is ready to begin inside it. Yes, it is hard. Sometimes it hurts so deeply that you feel like you are breaking apart. But even then, you can choose to keep moving. So instead of resisting the inevitable, ask yourself, what is this teaching me? Which part of me needs to change along with the world around me? Try this practice. Look at one area of your life where you are still holding on, a relationship that no longer nourishes you, a plan that has lost its meaning, a version of yourself that no longer fits. Let it go. Understand that releasing is not weakness, it is maturity. And acceptance is the first step toward turning an ending into a new beginning. Move with the current of change, not against it, because the one who accepts the flow of life does not lose control. They gain freedom. And where there is freedom, strength follows. Because nothing builds an unbreakable person quite like the courage to keep going, even when everything around them is shifting. 4. Make self-mastery the foundation of your freedom. Have you ever noticed that the thing standing most in your way is not the world? It is your own reaction to the world. It is not others who unsettle you. It is your response. Not the unexpected event that ruins the day, but the degree to which you let it affect you. Stoicism teaches real strength begins when you learn to govern yourself. That is self-mastery. And self-mastery is not coldness. It is not rigidity. It is clarity. It is the deep understanding that not every situation deserves your reaction. Not every emotion deserves a performance. Not every impulse should become an action. Seneca wrote, "Remove from yourself the part that disappoints you. Focus on what you can govern." And you know what disappoints most? When you let yourself down. When you react to something small as if the world were ending. When you spend money you did not have. When you say something you should not have said. When you send the wrong thoughts spinning through your mind until they pull you under. Self-mastery is the space between a trigger and a response. It is the moment you choose to act not as a victim of circumstance, but as someone who is in command of their own life. When you feel envy, catch it, breathe, and turn it into gratitude. When you feel anger, see it clearly, channel it, and respond with dignity rather than force. When you feel anxiety, name it, breathe through it, and return to the present, step by step. You do not need to be a machine, but you are also not obligated to be a prisoner of your own impulses. Self-mastery is what happens when you begin to use the mind as a tool rather than fighting it as an enemy. It is training the pause before reaction, the breath before the word, the awareness before the choice. Here is a straightforward Stoic exercise for today. Observe your triggers, not to punish yourself, but to understand yourself. What pulls you off balance? What sends you into autopilot mode? See it. Name it. Choose a different response. That is how genuine strength grows, through the daily decision not to surrender to chaos, whether it is happening outside or within. Self-mastery is a practice. And every single time you hold steady, even when everything inside you is surging, you send yourself one powerful message. I am not a puppet of my emotions. I am the one who decides. Real confidence is born from this, from knowing you can rely on yourself, not only in peaceful moments, but when everything around you is falling apart and you remain standing. 5. You have the power to change what you believe. You can work hard, dress well, study relentlessly, and improve your skills every day. But if somewhere deep inside you carry a limiting belief about who you are, everything becomes twice as difficult. It is like trying to run with a heavy chain around your ankle. You push forward, you try, but you barely move. Maybe someone once told you that you were slow, lazy, weak, or incapable. Maybe a single failure convinced you it was safer to never try again. Maybe you do not even remember when it happened. but your mind still responds as if it is true. Those voices from the past do not shout, they whisper. And the most dangerous thing is this: somewhere along the way, you believed them. Epictetus said, "It is not the events themselves that disturb people, but their judgments about those events." Which means the issue is not what happened to you. The issue is what you decided to believe after it happened. Beliefs are not just thoughts. They are roots. They grow deep, shape your reality, and influence everything you see, feel, and choose. And if those roots are rotten, life grows crooked, filled with fear, loaded with self-sabotage. That is why today I want to tell you clearly, you have the power to rewrite your own story. The Stoics did not teach you to run from pain. They taught you to look at it honestly, to challenge the voice that says, you cannot, to question the story that insists, you always fail, to examine the belief that whispers, you are not capable of this. Because it does not matter who planted those seeds, a teacher, a parent, a careless moment in childhood. What matters is this: you are no longer required to carry them. As long as you do not question these beliefs, you stay trapped inside an older version of yourself. You have already changed. But your mind is still acting as if you are that child who was never accepted, that teenager who was afraid to speak, that adult who kept doubting their worth. Real transformation begins when you stop saying, this is just who I am, and start saying, I can be someone different. The mind that once worked against you can become your greatest ally. But to get there, you must stop treating every thought as truth, every fear as fate, and every criticism as a final verdict. Your thoughts need a filter, not blind obedience. A thought is not a command. It is only a suggestion. And you have the right to say, I no longer accept this. Today's practice is direct. Listen to your automatic phrases. And every time you hear, I can't, I'm not capable, that's not for me, stop, breathe, and respond. That's an old thought. I can choose a different one. Write in the comments, today, I choose to believe in myself. Let that phrase become your new standard. Because the one who changes their beliefs changes their possibilities. And the one who changes their possibilities changes the course of their life. 6. Focus only on what is yours to control and release everything else. You do not feel uncertain because you are weak. You feel uncertain because you are trying to govern things that were never yours to govern. You try to predict how others will behave. You want to know in advance how everything will turn out. You want to arrange events perfectly. And when that does not happen, everything collapses. But perhaps this is not weakness. Perhaps it is simply a lack of clarity about where your responsibility ends and where the world begins. Epictetus reminded his students every single day, some things depend on us and some things do not. This is the dichotomy of control, a simple, liberating truth at the very center of Stoic philosophy. You cannot govern what other people think of you. You cannot guarantee outcomes. You cannot control life itself. But you have something far more valuable: authority over your own decisions, your own actions, and your own character. Self-doubt appears when you forget this, when you exhaust yourself trying to please everyone, predict everything, hold everything in place, and then end up crushed when life does not match your expectations. Here is an example. You are preparing for a job interview. Instead of focusing on your preparation, on what you have to offer, you spend the entire night asking, what will they think of me? Will they choose me? Will my experience impress them? But none of that is in your control. What is in your hands? How you show up, your presence, your honesty, your steadiness, and that is already enough. Or another example, you pour yourself into your work beyond what is required and wait for recognition, for acknowledgement, for something to confirm that it mattered. But your sense of worth suddenly depends on someone who may not have even noticed, and you forget to ask yourself, do I see my own value? Would I have done this work even if no one was watching? Seneca wrote, "True equanimity is born when you focus on your own actions, not on the reactions of others. When you do what is right simply because it is right, a strength appears inside you that no one can take away. Accepting the dichotomy of control is not easy, but this is precisely the line between anxiety and peace. Because when you know you have done everything you could, you can rest, even if the world did not respond the way you hoped. That is not indifference. That is wisdom. Today's practice. The next time you feel uncertain, pause and ask yourself, does this depend on me? If yes, act decisively. If no, release it. Breathe. Return to yourself. Because every time you focus on what is within your control, you plant peace. And every time you release what is not yours, you harvest freedom. 7. Know yourself. It changes everything. Stoicism is not just a philosophy. It is a practice, a discipline, a path, inward. At its heart is self-knowledge. The Stoics did not study philosophy to appear wise. They reflected on themselves in order to become aware, because they understood that the greatest power a person holds is not external achievement. It is the understanding of who they truly are. You can conquer the entire world. But if you do not know who is making your decisions, then everything can collapse at the first criticism, the first empty compliment, the first moment of self-doubt. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And it is true. Most of our fears do not live outside us. They live in the mind, in how we interpret events, in how we perceive what happens to us. Self-knowledge is not a luxury. It is an emotional necessity. The person who does not know themselves reacts blindly. The person who knows themselves chooses consciously. And that difference changes everything. Self-knowledge is not achieved through sitting quietly in meditation, waiting for revelation. It demands the courage to look inside. It requires radical honesty. Not blame, but inquiry. What in me still allows this to happen? What pattern keeps showing up? Here is what self-knowledge often reveals. Behind anger, there is usually fear. Behind procrastination, there is often perfectionism. Behind anxiety, there is frequently the need to control everything. None of this is revealed in a single evening. It is a path built through presence, through watching your reactions, reflecting on patterns, sitting with the questions that are uncomfortable but ultimately freeing. Stoicism is a mirror. It makes you look. And at first, what you see may not please you. But that is precisely where transformation begins, because you can only change what you have first understood. When you begin to see clearly what drives you, what blocks you, what causes you to explode or retreat, you gain power. The power to act with intention, to respond with calm, to hold your position with dignity. not from impulse, but from awareness. So stop searching for answers outside yourself. Learn to listen to what is happening within. Watch what causes you pain and what brings you peace. Notice what makes you hide your true self. With every discovery, you become more solid. With every truth you accept, you become more free. If this section moved something in you, write in the comments, "Today I choose to know myself with courage," because the better you know yourself, the less you have to pretend. And the more truth you carry inside, the less the world can shake you. 8. Your mind believes what you keep telling it. Have you ever stopped to listen to what you say to yourself every day? Not out loud, but in that quiet place inside, where thoughts run without permission. That voice shows up after a mistake. You failed again. You never get anything right. Nothing ever works out for you. And do you know what the most dangerous part of that is? Not the mistake itself, but how you treat yourself after it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What you think of yourself matters far more than what others think." And this is not simply a beautiful idea. It is a matter of emotional survival. Because the way you speak to yourself determines how you live. If your mind is a battlefield, then even in moments of peace, you are living under tension. If your mind is a courtroom, you are perpetually on trial, in front of yourself. But if your mind becomes a home, a safe place, everything changes. You no longer need to run. You no longer need to hide. You move through life with a settled confidence, knowing that whatever happens, there is a secure place inside you that nothing can reach. So begin replacing self-criticism with self-support. Instead of "I ruined everything again," say, "I made a mistake and I can learn from it." Instead of "Nothing ever works for me," say, "This is difficult, but I am not giving up." This is not self-deception. This is emotional intelligence. This is choosing to hold the wheel of your inner voice, rather than allowing negative thoughts to drive you wherever they want. There is also a powerful antidote to self-diminishment: genuine gratitude. Not the automatic, performative gratitude written on social media at the end of the year, but real gratitude, deeply felt. Gratitude for the food you had today, for the roof over your head, for the body still carrying you, for the quiet victories nobody saw, but which kept you standing. When you begin to give thanks, even while in pain, your mind shifts its focus. You stop staring at what is missing and start noticing what already exists. You stop fixating on the hurt and begin to see what holds you together. This calms, strengthens, and changes you. Here is one more important practice. Challenge the negative thoughts directly. Ask yourself, is this voice mine? Or is this something I was taught to do to myself? Is what I am thinking right now a fact? Or is it just fear disguised as certainty? Most of the thoughts that undermine us are not facts. They are interpretations. And when you start questioning them, you start becoming free. But do not expect perfection here either. You will still stumble. You will still have days when the self-criticism returns. What matters is catching it earlier each time and returning to yourself with kindness, with awareness, with the understanding that you are in the middle of becoming someone stronger. Write in the comments, "Today I choose to be my own source of support." Because at the end of the day, the most important voice you will ever hear is your own. And when that voice becomes an ally, Nothing in the world can break you from within. 9. Step outside your familiar boundaries, because that is where confidence lives. At first, a comfort zone feels like home. It feels warm, familiar, safe. It offers the illusion of control. But over time, that shelter begins to press in on you. What was once convenience becomes limitation. The container that once held you now confines you. Stoicism teaches growth does not happen inside the predictable. Marcus Aurelius wrote that life demands action, not guarantees. But we keep waiting for the perfect moment, for the green light, for the absolute certainty that never comes. Here is the truth. Your familiar space is not made of peace. It is made of repetition. And repetition without intention is stagnation. You wake up, you work, you respond, you survive. But the soul stays still. You want change, but resist the discomfort. You want to be stronger, but avoid what challenges you. You want to overcome self-doubt, but refuse to leave the familiar. Epictetus said, "Habit is a tyrant that disguises itself as routine. And every habit that overcautiously protects you is also quietly limiting you." Stepping beyond what is familiar does not mean doing something reckless. It means doing something different. Saying what you always kept quiet. Trying what you keep postponing. Placing yourself in a situation that the old version of you would never have dared to enter. Research suggests that every time you do something new, even something tiny, the brain records. This is possible. Gradually, what used to frighten you becomes familiar. What seemed impossible becomes ordinary. What was once a source of fear becomes the foundation for growth. Want to know the real path past self-doubt? Stop hiding. Test yourself. Step forward with the fear present, and come back with a new story. Make a mistake, learn from it, and try again, this time with a little more confidence. Do this today, and tomorrow, and the day after, until the new no longer frightens you, but begins to expand you. Today's practice is simple. Choose one small thing that lies just beyond your usual boundary. Have a conversation you have been avoiding. Speak your opinion in a room where you usually stay quiet. Share an idea you have been holding back. Take a different route home. It does not need to be perfect. It just needs to be different. Every small step into the unfamiliar is a large step toward genuine confidence in yourself. 10. Begin building your own path. There comes a moment when you must stop waiting for permission and start building from within. A moment when, even with fear present, even with doubts circling, even on the heaviest days, you choose to move forward anyway. Because the confidence you have been searching for outside of yourself is not found out there. It is built step by step in the quiet places, through the choices no one else sees. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is something bearable, then bear it. Stop complaining." And these words are not cruelty. They are freedom. They remind you, you are far stronger than you imagine. Inside you is a strength the world has not yet seen, and only you can awaken it. This is not about living for applause. It is about living with meaning. Your life is not a competition. It is not a performance stage where you earn your right to exist. It is a path. And it begins to take shape only when you stop being distracted by what others expect of you and start honoring what you expect of yourself. You do not need to accomplish everything today. You do not need to solve your entire life in a week. But you must begin with one gesture, one habit, one decision, one step taken with intention. Stoicism is not just a beautiful theory. It is a demanding practice. It is getting up with what you have, acting even when you are afraid, rebuilding yourself with dignity after something breaks you down, waking up tomorrow and taking the step again, even if no one is watching. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to evolve, to build stone by stone a life that reflects your true worth. And every small action that aligns with that, even when no one sees it, is already a victory. So today, take a step with intention, not to impress anyone, but to honor the person you are becoming. Write in the comments, "Today I am building my path with confidence." And remember, you do not need to move fast. You just need to move with truth, with clarity, and with courage. Because the one who moves with meaning is already winning. Dear viewers, if this video reached something in you, I want to ask you to subscribe to the channel. Here, we do not treat Stoicism as theory. We practice it as a way of becoming calmer, stronger, and harder to knock off balance. Share this with someone who might need it today. And I will see you in the next one.